The docking clamps locked with a hiss, and the shuttle's ramp descended into the artificial light of the Zalari flagship's hangar. Commander Elias Grant stood tall at the threshold, his breath steady, his posture deliberate. Beside him, alert and unmoving, sat Max, a German shepherd with golden fur, intelligent eyes, and a composure honed by years of military training. His tail gave a single twitch as the acrid scent of alien metal touched his nose, but otherwise, he remained a statue of patience. The Zalari delegation waited in rigid formation. Tall, sinewy, and almost statuesque themselves, they bore smooth silver-gray skin and black, pupil-less eyes that reflected the hangar lights like mirrors. Their leader stepped forward, Advisor Keelan, a figure more draped than dressed, his robe shifting like liquid glass with each movement. His voice, when it came, was sharp and devoid of inflection. "You were instructed to arrive unarmed, Commander Grant." Elias offered a calm nod. "I followed your directive precisely. No weapons, no armor, just myself and the beast." Keelan's gaze flicked downward. Max met it without flinching. "He's my working companion," Elias said. "His name is Max." A murmur ran through the other Zalari. Their native language was a rapid pulse of resonant clicks, but the translator embedded in Elias's collar rendered the undertones clearly enough. Disapproval, confusion, alarm. Keelan turned, speaking to his entourage before addressing Elias again. "Your creature has been flagged in our bioscans. Its genetic aggression markers are well above protocol safety thresholds. It qualifies as a Class Omega organism. Too dangerous for open contact. It must be removed immediately." Elias's jaw tightened. Max is not a threat. He's trained for diplomatic and rescue operations. He's saved more lives than most soldiers I know. I trust him more than any human operative. A second Zalari, smaller and visibly agitated, stepped forward. Its jaw pressure alone could shatter bone. Its olfactory range spans chemical detection fields. Its instincts are predatory, primitive. Why would you bring such a volatile organism to a first contact session? Elias raised an eyebrow. "Because your species requested an honest demonstration of our kind. You asked for a complete human experience. Max is part of that." Advisor Keelan's mouth opened slightly, an expression Elias was beginning to read as skeptical disapproval. The silence stretched between them, tense and electric. "We are prepared to initiate contact based on terms of mutual respect," Keelan finally said. "But your insistence on bringing this animal complicates matters." "He's not an animal," Elias replied evenly. "He's a soldier, a protector. And if we're going to talk peace, you'll need to understand what loyalty looks like in our culture." Another murmur echoed from the Zalari. Some of them leaned in slightly, intrigued perhaps. Others retreated a step, uncertain. Keelan's voice took on a faint note of curiosity. "Loyalty. You ascribe emotional abstraction to a biological tool. I don't expect you to understand," Elias said. "But I'm not leaving Max behind. You want full diplomatic access, full cultural exchange. You get all of it. Him included." One of the guards behind Keelan, tall even for a Zalari, stepped forward and reached for the weapon at its side. Max was on his feet in an instant, a low growl vibrating through the hangar like distant thunder. His hackles rose, but he did not lunge. He waited, watching, measuring. Elias raised a hand without looking. "Max down." The dog obeyed, lowering to the floor in a slow, calculated motion. His eyes never left the armed Zalari. The guard froze, hesitant. Keelan raised a hand, halting the movement. "No further action. We will not provoke an incident." Tension held for another long moment before it began to dissolve. The armed guard returned to formation. Max remained down, alert but calm. "Perhaps," Keelan said after a pause, "there is value in studying this creature. But if it steps out of line even once, the consequences are yours to bear." "I wouldn't ask you to bear them," Elias replied. I take full responsibility. Without another word, Keelan gestured toward the corridor beyond the hangar. A shimmering gateway opened, exposing a sleek metal hallway lined with sensory nodes and surveillance devices. You will be escorted to an observation chamber. Your companion will undergo behavioral analysis. If he passes, we will proceed. If not, he will be neutralized. Elias met the alien's eyes. He'll pass. They were led through the corridor, flanked by silent guards who walked with disturbing grace. The ship hummed with a frequency that vibrated through Elias's boots, low and constant, like the murmur of a sentient machine. He kept his pace, even aware that every move he made was being scrutinized. Max trotted beside him, matching his stride, tail held low but relaxed. The chamber was stark, hexagonal, and lit from all directions. A transparent barrier separated Elias and Max from the control station, where Keelan and several other Zalari watched intently. A mechanical arm extended from the ceiling, deploying a floating sphere that hovered in midair. Initial behavioral sequence, said a disembodied voice. Subject, human companion K9. Task 1, response to command. Elias crouched beside Max. Sit. Max obeyed instantly. Down. Again, immediate compliance. Roll. The dog rolled on the smooth metal floor, then popped back up, ears perked. The floating sphere blinked blue. Task 2, response under pressure. With a hiss, the room shifted. A sudden shriek filled the chamber, a synthetic cry resembling a child in danger. The walls pulsed red. The scent of smoke filled the air. Elias didn't hesitate. Search. Max sprang into action, nose sweeping side to side. He moved swiftly, but without panic, locating a hidden compartment where a small speaker played the distress sound. He barked once, sharp and precise. The chamber lights returned to normal. The Zalari stared through the glass, silent. Task 3, instinctual compulsion, the voice said. A door slid open. A fake creature was released, low-slung, fast, aggressive in its movements, with a thrumming mechanical growl. Max stood still, watched. He looked up at Elias, waiting. Leave it, Elias said. Max did not move, even as the decoy snarled and charged. The moment it got within 2 meters, a new command, guard. Max intercepted the machine, pinning it with calculated force, teeth bared but not striking. It struggled. Max held firm until Elias whistled. The dog backed off, returning to his handler's side. The floating sphere dimmed. Through the glass, a shift occurred. Zalari, previously rigid in posture, now leaned in. One whispered something to another. Advisor Keelan stared, unmoving. A quiet click echoed through the chamber, and a small side hatch opened. From it rolled a simple object, a rubber ball, standard human issue. Elias smiled faintly. You want to see something truly alien? He picked up the ball and tossed it gently across the room. Max's ears perked. With a burst of excitement, he darted forward, retrieved it, and trotted back, tail wagging. He dropped it at Elias's feet and barked once. Silence. Total silence from the observation deck. Elias knelt, scratching behind Max's ears. Good boy. Behind the glass, Advisor Keelan tilted his head slowly. You claim dominion over a Class Omega Predator. By playing a game? Elias didn't look up. We don't dominate. We partner. Keelan stared longer than before. This will require further evaluation. And with that, the chamber lights dimmed and the session concluded. But the questions left behind, silent and looming, would not dim so easily. The next day brought no fanfare. The Zalari operated without pretense or ceremony, favoring structure over sentiment. Elias stood once again in the observation chamber, the same hexagonal space from the prior session. Max sat calmly at his side, posture alert, tail still. The dog's quiet confidence drew curious glances from the aliens behind the transparent wall, though none of them ventured close. A disembodied voice, emotionless and mechanical, filled the room. Phase 2. Autonomous stress response and situational decision-making. Elias glanced at Max. Ready, bud? Max didn't bark. He didn't need to. Elias could see the answer in the way the dog straightened, bracing for whatever came next. The floor shifted beneath them with a hydraulic groan. Segments rotated and recessed, creating uneven terrain. From overhead, the light dimmed, replaced by flickering pulses that mimicked erratic power failure. A gust of chilled air blew through the chamber, followed by synthetic smoke. Sound effects commenced, distant screams, the crackle of fire, the thud of collapsing beams. It was all simulated, but incredibly convincing. Max didn't panic. He glanced at Elias, awaiting input, but Elias gave no command. The test was clear now. Max had to act on his own. The dog began moving, tail down, body low. He crossed the jagged floor carefully, nose working furiously. A panel near the chamber wall hissed open, revealing a small dummy child, plastic but crafted with human features, trapped under a steel beam. Max rushed forward. He tugged at the dummy's clothing, then barked twice in succession. A camera pivoted overhead. The aliens were watching closely. The dog tried pulling again but stopped, surveyed the beam, then moved to its base. With his teeth, he grabbed a loose cord nearby and pulled. It triggered a mechanism that released the beam slightly, enough to free the dummy. Max dragged the inert figure backward, away from danger, and sat beside it, barking sharply 3 times. The floor rotated again, and the lights flared. Elias felt the shift in tone. The voice announced, "Environmental hazard. Hostile presence detected." A second hatch opened. From it emerged a sleek drone with a segmented body, glowing red eyes, and retractable legs tipped with blunt sensors. It crawled toward Max with predatory precision, emitting a low hum. Elias's fists clenched at his sides. Max stepped forward to place himself between the drone and the dummy. He growled, low and warning. The drone darted left, attempting to flank him. Max countered. It charged. Max lunged. The two collided in a blur of fur and metal. Max struck with control, not savagery. His jaws clamped the drone's neck joint, severing the motion controls. The drone collapsed, twitching. Max stood over it, chest heaving, gaze locked on Elias as if awaiting the next move. "Task complete," the voice said. The floor settled. The lights brightened. A small door slid open at the rear of the chamber. Max trotted back to Elias's side and sat. The Zalari behind the glass were whispering now, not in panic or disapproval, but in visible fascination. Even Keelan, usually unmoved, leaned forward. Elias stepped forward, placing a hand on Max's head. "That good enough for you?" A side door opened, and Keelan entered the chamber directly, flanked by 2 scientists. The others remained behind the glass. Elias raised an eyebrow. This was unusual. "We are revising our understanding," Keelan said without preamble. "The creature's behavioral models are in direct conflict with our data. Its aggression profile has not diminished, yet it exercises extreme control. He's trained," Elias said. "And more than that, he trusts me. That's what matters." One of the scientists stepped closer, scanning Max from a distance. The bond appears reciprocal. The organism not only responds to orders, but anticipates them. It adapts in real time to shifting variables. "Fascinating." Elias nodded. "He's not just reacting. He's thinking. That's what you're seeing." Keelan's brow furrowed, an expression of deep processing among the Zalari. "Is it your belief, then, that such creatures are intelligent in the same way humans are?" "Not the same," Elias replied. "But they're intelligent. And there's something more: loyal, protective, emotionally aware. That's not weakness. That's strength." Keelan turned his gaze to Max, who sat perfectly still. "And what allows this control over aggression? You believe it stems from emotional connection." It's not belief, Elias said. It's fact. You're looking at the result of trust, routine, empathy. He follows me because he knows I'll never lead him into something I wouldn't face myself. Keelan fell silent, then motioned to the scientist. Prepare the final test. Elias bristled. He just passed a combat simulation. How much more do you need? Keelan didn't answer. The scientist tapped on a handheld device, and the chamber walls shifted again. This time, the environment resembled a metallic corridor, narrow, dim, unfamiliar. From one end, a figure appeared, human in silhouette, but moving with a mechanical rigidity. Test subject entering conflict zone, the voice announced. Elias recognized the ploy immediately. The simulation had dropped a hostile in human form. They wanted to see if Max could distinguish friend from foe. The figure advanced. Sparks shot from the ceiling. Max paced beside Elias, ears twitching, uncertain. The figure raised its arm. A device at its wrist glowed red. Max growled. Elias said nothing. The figure lunged, suddenly fast, with a blade emerging from its forearm. Elias flinched, but Max moved first. He charged, barking with explosive force, and took the figure down by the legs, sending it crashing to the ground. The blade skittered away. Max pinned the figure, snarling but did not bite. He waited, measured, calculated. Stand down, Elias said quietly. Max released his hold and returned to Elias's side. The chamber fell still. Keelan stepped forward, his expression unreadable. There are no commands for mercy in your military programming. Maybe not in yours, Elias said. Keelan's gaze lingered on the simulation figure, then shifted to Max. This is not control. It is something deeper. You do not command him. You influence him. Elias gave a faint smile. Now you're starting to get it. Keelan turned and exited without another word. The scientists followed. Elias reached down and scratched Max behind the ear. They'll never admit it, but you just rewrote their entire understanding of dominance. Max gave a soft whine and licked his hand. A moment later, the observation glass darkened, and the intercom buzzed again. The demonstration has exceeded expectations. You will be summoned tomorrow for a final presentation before the council. Do not bring weapons. Bring the creature. Elias chuckled. He's not a creature. He's Max. The door slid open, and they walked through it together, man and dog, back into the sleek, humming corridors of the alien ship. Behind them, the chamber reset to its neutral state, the simulations deleted, the lights dimmed. But something had shifted. For the first time since contact began, the Zalari had no further questions about Max. Now, their questions were all about humanity. The council chamber loomed vast and hushed, a cathedral of glass and alloy, suspended in orbit above a blue-lit gas giant. 1,000 stars spilled through the transparent dome above, casting faint reflections across the room's polished obsidian floor. Elias stood in its center, flanked by Max on his left, and a pair of Zalari guards at a respectful distance. Though unrestrained, he understood this was not a room one left without invitation. Around him, seated in a half-ring of levitating thrones, the Zalari council observed. 11 in total, each draped in robes of varied color that shimmered with internal light, a subtle indicator of social or political alignment. Advisor Keelan stood to the side, not seated with the others. His expression remained measured, though his presence here, on the same level as Elias, signified something had changed. Human Representative Elias Grant intoned the central figure, Counselor Yurev, a tall, translucent-skinned being whose tone suggested gravity without hostility. You have brought before us a species previously flagged as a Category Omega threat. Do you still claim responsibility for its presence and behavior? I do, Elias said, voice calm and resolute. Max is under my care, but he's not my subordinate. He's my partner. Max, seated at Elias's side, flicked his ears, sensing the tension. His body was relaxed, yet alert in every limb. The evidence from our observation confirms high levels of restraint, adaptive cognition, and emotional sensitivity, Yurev said. Traits unexpected in an Earth species originally bred for hunting. Another counselor leaned forward, the lights in his robe flickering gold. Do you claim this animal is sentient? Elias met the question without pause. He understands suffering. He recognizes fear. He responds with compassion, loyalty, and purpose. If that's not a kind of sentience, then your definition is too narrow. A murmur rippled through the council. Not outrage, curiosity. Keelan stepped forward. May I present supplemental data? Council? Yurev nodded. The air shimmered as a projection bloomed into view, displaying segmented footage from the behavioral trials. Max navigating obstacles, assisting the dummy, neutralizing the drone, restraining rather than destroying. Each clip played in silence, the image floating between Elias and the counselors. Then came the final segment, the confrontation with the humanoid figure. Max's leap, his restraint, his immediate obedience to Elias's voice. When the projection faded, silence returned. It was the stillness of consideration, heavy and full. A new voice broke it, Counselor Vel, whose violet robes shimmered faintly with each word. You speak of partnership, yet your people have bred these creatures, modified them across generations. Does that not mirror our own manipulations of bioengineered tools? Elias's voice sharpened. We bred for companionship, not subservience. We shaped instincts but never extinguished free will. Dogs can disobey. They choose not to. That's the difference. Vel's brows lifted, barely, but the gesture did not seem mocking. Then your argument is not that this species is safe, but that it is good, that it shares your ethics. I wouldn't trust a machine with ethics, Elias said. But I'd trust Max to guard a child, defuse a threat, comfort the dying. Because his instincts aren't corrupted by logic alone. The council fell into quiet deliberation again. This time, it lasted longer. Max shifted, head tilting toward the far entrance. Elias followed his gaze. Another door was opening, smooth and silent. From it came a figure, Zalari, but not adorned in council robes. She was smaller, younger by their standards, her gait measured but hesitant, and she carried something. It was a box, small and covered in living metal that pulsed like a heartbeat. When she reached the center, she opened it, revealing a creature unlike any Elias had seen. Sleek, six-legged, no larger than a cat, but its eyes, dark and luminescent, held a watchfulness that rivaled Max's. The counselor raised her voice. This is a Veltran WYRN, native to one of our outer colonies. It too is classified as Class Omega. It's known for its intelligence, but more for its unpredictability. It has never been socialized. Max stood. The WYRN hissed, its sleek body arching, tail coiled. It sensed the dog. A predator's tension spread through the room. Elias didn't move. What is this? Yurev answered. A parallel demonstration. We wish to see whether your companion's control extends to unpredictable interactions. Keelan gave a tight nod. We will not intervene unless necessary. The WYRN leapt from the box, landing with soundless grace. It circled Max, every motion deliberate. Max turned slowly, nose twitching, tail low but neutral. Then the WYRN hissed again, louder, challenging. Max did not growl. He did not lunge. Instead, he sat. The council murmured, louder this time. The WYRN hesitated. It pawed the ground, confused. Max gave a short, low bark. Not aggressive, more like a warning. The WYRN darted forward. Max moved like lightning, dodging, not attacking. He interposed himself between Elias and the creature, posture stiff. His ears laid flat. A second bark, sharper. The WYRN stopped. A moment passed. Then another. Slowly, The smaller creature backed away. Not out of fear, but recognition. It retreated into the box without further noise. Max returned to his position beside Elias and sat. Counselor Yurev rose from his throne. This was not expected. He protected me, Elias said, but only to the extent required. No more. That's control born of understanding, not fear. Counselor Vel stood as well. There are questions we have not yet answered. But there is something here, an element of humanity we did not anticipate. Another counselor added, not just humanity, harmony. Yurev nodded once. The vote will be cast. A projection appeared in the air above them, 11 glowing symbols. One by one, they pulsed blue. Unanimous. Keelan stepped forward. The Council agrees to recalibrate our classification of Earth species, Canis familiaris, from Category Omega to Category Sentinel, under the condition that continued study be permitted, and that one such example remain on board for long-term observation. Elias turned, crouched beside Max. That okay with you? Max wagged his tail once. Elias looked back at the Council. Then we agree. The chamber dimmed slightly as the projection faded. Counselors began to file out in silence, deliberation now complete. Keelan lingered. As he approached, his tone lost some of its clipped formality. When we first flagged your species for study, we expected brute intellect, fire and thunder, weaponized logic. What you brought was nuance, emotion tempered by discipline. Elias smiled faintly. We're not just apex predators. We're social ones. Keelan nodded. That may be the more dangerous trait. He gestured toward the corridor. Return to your quarters. You will be debriefed at dawn. Elias turned. Max followed. Together, they exited the chamber as it darkened behind them. The Council had made their decision, but something deeper had shifted. Not just diplomatic clearance, but understanding. The wariness had not vanished. The fear had not dissolved, but both now stood beside something far more powerful. Respect. The dawn over the Zalari station was artificial, timed by orbital regulators, and executed with soft gradients of amber light across the corridors. Elias rose before the illumination peaked, already awake when the soft chime sounded to mark the hour. Max stirred beside him, his breathing slow and steady. His dark eyes opening the moment Elias moved to sit on the edge of the bunk. You feel it too, huh? Elias whispered. Max's ears twitched. He stood, stretched, and trotted over, nudging Elias's knee with a quiet huff. They'd both sensed it, something final in the air. The Council's decision was rendered, but it hadn't closed the matter. That kind of unanimous vote only opened new doors, new responsibilities. They were no longer under suspicion, but now there was something more complicated, an example. Keelan arrived shortly after, this time without guards or escort. He stood in the doorway with a stillness that only came from species evolved without predators. Walk with me, he said simply. Elias nodded, fastening his jacket as Max padded to his side. They followed the Zalari through the curving halls, light shifting subtly as they moved deeper into the administrative wing. The conversation waited, unspoken, until Keelan led them into a narrow chamber that opened into a viewing platform. Transparent floor and ceiling revealing the orbit below and the planet's endless storm-churned surface far beneath them. We are expanding your classification, Keelan said, looking down rather than at Elias. Not just Max. You. Elias crossed his arms. I thought this was about the dog. It was, Keelan replied. But the implications have multiplied. A species that can form such partnerships. It suggests something deeper about your civilization. Something unexpected. We've been building bonds like this for thousands of years, Elias said. You just didn't notice because you were too focused on the teeth. Keelan finally turned. No, we saw the teeth. What we didn't expect was restraint. That is not common among apex species. Most destroy everything weaker to secure dominance. Elias gestured to Max, who lay calmly at his feet. That's what makes him strong. It's not dominance. It's discernment. We have chosen a term, Keelan said, for the bond you represent. We are calling it integration compatibility. You are the first confirmed example. Elias frowned. That sounds clinical. Because it must be, Keelan said. If we call it friendship, our scientists will dismiss it as sentimentalism. If we call it mutualism, the strategists will misinterpret it as exploitation. But this is functional and provable. Still, Elias said, watching the swirling gas below, I didn't sign up to be a thesis subject. Keelan's voice softened. You are more than that now. The Council has authorized a new envoy program. We want your help. With what? Introducing more of your kind. More like Max. We want to learn. And we want others to see what you've shown us. Elias didn't answer immediately. His thoughts drifted to Earth, to the friends he hadn't seen in over a year, to the training fields and crumbling bureaucracy that had led him to volunteer for this mission in the first place. He hadn't expected to make first contact. He hadn't expected to do anything but survive. And now, you're asking me to be a liaison, he said finally. You want to send me to other species as proof that humans and Earth-based life forms aren't a threat. We want to send you as proof that danger and decency can exist in the same body, Keelan said. That stopped Elias for a moment. Max stood and leaned into his leg gently. Elias sighed. Then I'll need more than one dog. Keelan's expression tightened, close to what passed for a smile among his kind. We anticipated that. Your transport is already outfitted for extended terrestrial collection and interspecies interaction. Elias rubbed a hand down his face. So that's it. I go from subject to specimen to ambassador. You are not a specimen, Keelan said. You are precedent. That word echoed long after Keelan left them alone again, the viewing chamber silent except for the faint hum of the station systems. Elias sat down on a bench that curved with the wall. Max climbed up beside him uninvited and laid his head on Elias's lap. You know what this means, don't you? Elias murmured, stroking his fur absently. We're the proof that empathy works. Max let out a deep, content sigh. And now we have to prove it to everyone else. A few days later, they were back in orbit, aboard a vessel redesigned for long-range diplomatic traversal. Not a warship, not a lab, something in between. The ship was named the Concordant. Elias hadn't named it, but the title felt appropriate. As the launch bay doors closed behind them, Max paced through the cabin, exploring each compartment with tail-up curiosity. The ship had been fitted with environmental controls tailored to canine biology. Enrichment stations, decontamination showers, even an observation deck with artificial turf. They were no longer anomalies. They were templates. Their first destination was a fringe colony belonging to a species known as the Ndari. Highly intellectual, intensely risk-averse, and famously xenophobic. The Zalari had selected it precisely for that reason. If Elias and Max could be accepted there, it would shift a galactic paradigm. Before approach, Elias reviewed the profile files. The Ndari had declined most alien visitors over the past 3 decades. Only 2 other emissaries have been granted limited access. Both synthetic intelligences, both rejected within a day. He closed the file and looked at Max, who now sat near the viewport, watching stars drift past. You ready to be judged again? Elias asked. Max turned, tail thumping once. No anxiety, just expectation. The drop sequence initiated. Artificial gravity tightened, and the ship descended toward the colony's shielded atmosphere. The comm crackled. Ndari voice, metallic and clipped, came through. Approach permitted under observation. Non-aggression protocols active. Elias keyed the reply. Acknowledged. 1 human, 1 terrestrial partner. No weapons. The landing gear engaged, and the ship settled on the alien soil. The ramp lowered. Max stood first. Elias followed. Outside waited a reception platform of glass and steel. A dozen Dari stood in a crescent, each with expressionless masks and draping garments. Elias stepped forward and stopped at the marked distance. "This," he said clearly, "is Max. He's not here to dominate, impress, or intimidate. He's here because he cares." Max sat. One of the Dari stepped forward, shorter than the rest. A child, maybe. She looked at Max for a long moment, then knelt. Max approached slowly. Then, without sound or command, he placed his head under her hand. She didn't flinch. Then Dari adults stiffened. Then one stepped forward as well, and then another. Within seconds, a dozen hands rested on Max. Elias stood still, the weight of 1,000 years pressing through his chest. They had come with a creature others called dangerous. But now, for the first time, Elias knew without doubt. They would leave as something far more dangerous than feared. They would leave as trusted.